This meeting is being recorded. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Kesavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Atmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarasundhakaro Vairukarasthannivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvad Guruvitya Vidiyate Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryangaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Om Bhadrangarne Vishniyama Devaha Bhadram Vashyemakshabhiryatraha Sthirairangai Stushtvagum Sastanubihi Vishema Devahi Tanjadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti na Starkshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatirdhatu Om Shanti 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 Om Namo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Namaha Namaha Gaudapada Shri Shankara Bhagavatpada Sureshwaracharyebyah Prajnanam Shukpratanaihi Sthiracharanikaravyapibhirvyapya lokan Puktva bhogan stavishtan punarapi dishanodbhasitan kamajanyan Pitva sarvan viseshan swapiti madhurabhung mayaya bhojayannaha Maya sankhya turiyam paramamritamajam brahmayatannatosmi Dakshinakshimukhe Vishwaha Manasyantastu Taijasaha Akashe cha Hriti Prajnaha Tridha Dehe Vyavastitaha. We were seeing the second verse of Mandukya Gaudapada Karika. Dakshinakshi Mukhe Vishwaha Manasi Antaha tu Taijasaha Akashe cha Hridi Prajnaha Tridha Dehe Vyavastitaha. So in the same one state which is vacant, all the three states are obtained. So you don't need to necessarily go through each of the individual states separately to understand them. But within the same vacant, in the Vishwa itself, you can recognize all the three. This is what this Karika shows us. Dakshinakshi Mukhe Vishwaha. In the right eye, because you are a right, if you are a right-hander, then right eye. If you are a left-hander, then left eye. You cognize, you see, you experience this world. And right eye, like I said earlier, is a upalakshana for all indriyas. All the karanas, when they are open and they are experiencing their own sensory objects of experience, it is called Vishwaha. So your senses are all functioning, all your five senses, the five, the knowledge, instruments, like eyes, nose, ears, touch and smell, touch and hearing, eyes, nose, ears, touch and taste. Through that you are experiencing this Jagat. That is Vishwa. When the same person closes the eyes, shuts down the Indriyas, at that time, by just continuing to imagine the same worldly experience, that same person is available as Taijasaha. When you are, doing fantasy or whatever, when you are sleeping, as you are awake, daydreaming, that is Taijasaha. Then even that you stop and you go to Nirvikalpa Samadhi, for example. Then Hridi Akashe Prajnaha, you are available as the Prajnana Ghana. This is the same thing that you are consciously doing, and if it happens without your explicit will, it is called dream and deep sleep. So this we saw the Bhashyam also. Same thing he explained. Rupam drishtva nimilitakshaha tadeva smaran manasi swapne tadeva vasana rupa abhivyaktam pashyati. In the form of impressions that were created when you are awakened, when all your senses are functioning, whatever is the impression, the imprints that is there in your mind, it leads to further exploration through your own mind. That's what we said, daydreaming, right? That is vasana rupa abhivyaktam pashyati. Yata atra tata swapne. So there is no difference between this and the dream. Dream, it's not your own volition, it just goes on. Even here you think it is your volition, but generally the thoughts automatically take you. They possess you and then you just go on, right? So it's very similar to swapna. Okay, but there is some will that you can exercise here. That is the only difference. Whereas in swapna, it's very difficult to exercise your will and all that. It just happens. But essentially they are the same. That's what he means. Yata atra tata swapne. Ataha manasi antaha tu taijaso api vishwaha eva. There's not a huge difference. Only the tangible senses are not there in Taijasa. It's not like your eyes are directly seeing some objects. But the Sukshma Indriya is there and it is as though in your mind you see. Okay. Akashe cha hridi smaranakya vyapara uparame prajnaha eki bhutaha gana prajnaha eva bhavati. So smaranakya vyapara uparame, if whatever recollection and memory that you are using to replay the incidents or expanding on the incidents when you are daydreaming, if you stop that memory and all the imprints from influencing your thought and all that, then what happens? Eki bhutaha gana prajnaha eva bhavati. It is just you are just as your awareness. You are there in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Mano vyapara abhavat. Darshana smarane eva hi manaspandite. So the darshana means in waken, smaranam means in the Taijasa, in the second state. Then what is the third? Prajnana ghana. So he says tadabhave hridiyeva aviseshena pranatmana avasthanam. So you are rooted as the prana. So in your deep sleep, this is very important because the next discussion is going to be about this prana only. Look at the statement. He says tadabhave hridiyeva aviseshena pranatmana avasthanam. Abhava of what? Darshana smarana manaspandana abhava. The absence of mental activity. So in the absence of mental activity, what is there? Prana alone is there. Without any visesha. Just the life force. Prana means life force, right? That is how we can translate for now. And he quotes the Shruti. Prano hi eva etan sarvan samvrinte iti shrutehe. The prana only resolves everything into itself. Taijasaha hiranyagarbhaha manastatvat. And the Taijasa. So the prana is the avyakrita. And Taijasa is Hiranyagarbha. Vishwa is Virat. Correct? In the collective. In the Samashti, Taijasa is Hiranyagarbha. Vai Manastatvat. So the mind also, there is a continuum. We have seen that. Therefore, it is Hiranyagarbha, Lingam Manaha, Manomayoyam Purushaha, Ityadi Shrutibhyaha. This Purusha, Virat Purusha, which is Hiranyagarbha, without the Stulatvam, is Manomayaha. It is the conscious whole. In Bhagavad Gita also we saw this. The whole Hiranyagarbha in the form of Aditya Varnam Tamasaf Parastad. In the 8th chapter. Aditya Varnaha, he says, like the sun, the effulgent light, this is effulgent awareness, consciousness, which is a samashti. In the holistic form, it is called Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, it is pranaha. Till here we saw in the last session. Now the question was raised, which is where we left off. Nanu vyakritah pranaha. Question Purvapakshi asks is, you are saying all the senses are resolved and it is in the seed form, and that is what is prana. However, prana is breathe, the vital energy in the form of prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. It is vyakrita. It is manifest. Even in deep sleep, it is manifest only. Because you are breathing, you are snoring, you are digesting, there is blood circulation, you feel the touch because of the flow of vital prana. Your legs, if it is hit by if it is bitten by mosquito, you are aware. Means there is the prana flow is there. It can't be said that it is unmanifest avyakritam. So the prana is vyakritaha. Sushupte tadatmakani karanani bhavanti. In the deep sleep, the vyakrita prana is where all the karanas are resting. So the prana is manifest. And within that prana's control is all your senses. That's why your heart is beating, your lungs are functioning, all your physical body, all the instruments are working. So karanas are also in its control in deep sleep. Katam avyakritata. How can you say it is avyakrita, unmanifest? That is a question asked. So Bhashyakara says, Naisha doshaha. This is not a defect. Why? Avyakritasya deshakala visesha abhava. What is avyakritam? Unmanifest means what? The absence of space and time. You are not aware. There is no recognition of time, space, and object. When there is no recognition of time, space, and object, that is avyakritatvam. So you have to look at it from the standpoint of the prana, not from an external observer. From the standpoint of prana, the person's core, surupa, there is no time-space recognition. So the tadatmya buddhi is essential for you to recognize time and space. You should have identity or identification with the karanas which are functioning in order for you to experience space and time. But that is not here. Therefore, avyakrita, prana is avyakrita, like because avyakrita also is because avyakritatva means what? Time and space is not there. That visesha, the qualification of the recognition of time and space is not there in Avyakrita, and it is not there in Prana also. Yadyapi Pranabhimane sati Vyakritata eva Pranasya tatapi Pinda Parichinna Vishesha Abhimana Nirodha Prane Bhavati iti Avyakritaha eva Pranaha Sushupte Parichinna Abhimanavatam. Parichinna Abhimanam means what? Jiva, the individuality. Parichinnatvam means what? Individuality, separateness. Not a Samashti Abhimani. Parichinna Abhimani means Jiva. So Pinda Parichinna Vishesha Abhimana Nirodha. Pinda Parichinnatvam means Pinda, Anda. These are the two words. Samashti is called Andam and Vyashti is called Pindam. Okay, the individual. Pinda Parichinnaha means the one who is Upadhi identified. The one who is in the form of the being which identifies itself with the Upadhi. That is Pinda Parichinnaha. So I am so and so. I am this bird, like that. So it doesn't need to say I am bird, but it sees itself as somebody who is flying and all that, right? It won't be able to tell you that I am a bird, but it's a Pinda Parichinna only. Its recognition is with its form as a bird. Similarly, you have an identity with this human form, that is Pinda Parichinna. So, Pinda Parichinna Vishesha Abhimana is there for who? The vacant person. Therefore, there is Prana Abhimana is there in the case of Vyakrita Prana when it is vacant. Okay. However, Sushupte, in the case of deep sleep, Parichinna Abhimana, the same Jiva, there is a Vishesha Abhimana Nirodha Prane Bhavati. So when you are vacant, you had a Pinda Parichinnatvam, therefore you identified yourself with this body, and there is time and space for you. But in deep sleep, the same prana, even for a jiva, there is no time-space recognition because it is in deep sleep. Therefore, it is an Avyakritaha eva. It is an unmanifest only. The same prana which in vacant identifies time and space and objects. In the deep sleep, it is without this identification and recognition. Therefore, Parichinna Abhimanavatam api Yadyapi Prana Abhimane Sati Vyakritata eva Pranasya Tatapi Pinda Parichinna Vishesha Abhimana Nirodha Prane Bhavati. The absence of Pinda Parichinna Vishesha Abhimana, the identity with the individuality, is negated. Therefore, what happens? There is no time recognition, space recognition, object recognition, nothing is there. Therefore, prana is Avyakrita only. From an outsider's perspective, it may look like the prana is functioning and all that. The prana being the life doesn't recognize duality in that state. Like an awareness doesn't recognize it. Therefore, it is Avyakrita only. Yata pranalaye parichinna abhimaninam pranaha avyakritaha tata prana abhimaninaha api avisheshapatto avyakritata samana. We say, right? In I think one of the movies, Tamil movies, there is a dialogue where I think Nagesh or somebody tells that sleep is a rehearsal for death. So every day when you go to sleep, you are rehearsing the death, because what is the difference? So here also that is used by Bhashyakara, Yatha Pranalaya. Pranalaya means death. So when Pranalaya has happened, Parichinna abhimaninam pranaha avyakritaha. For the same jiva, the prana is avyakritam only. Why do you say it is avyakritam? Why can't you say the prana is gone? Because there is rebirth. So Shastra only is pramana for this. Okay. Because of Shastra pramana, if there is rebirth, if we have to if we have to accept that position, then what is the conclusion? That means it is avyakritam, but it exists. Then only it can come back to life. Parichinna abhimaninam pranaha avyakritaha. It is not seen in that body. It's as though not there, because it is in the seed form. It probably travels. Okay, that's what Shastra says. Yata pranalaye parichinna abhimaninam pranaha avyakritaha. It's in avyakrita form, at least at the time of its departure, right? Tata prana abhimaninaha api avisesha apattau. Avisesha means undifferentiated state, means what? Deep sleep. In deep sleep also, avyakritata samana. So the unmanifest nature of the prana is likewise like to like between death and deep sleep. Only thing is that for an external person, so that is what we have to again and again look at it. That prana, there is an identification that you attribute to the body, to that life, because that is lying there and breathing, right? From this individual prana parichinna abhimani pranaha perspective, there is no difference, because you are experiencing deep sleep. Means it is, that's why it said it's like a rehearsal for death, because from the experiencer perspective both are same in a sense, assuming that you survive this body and get into another body, correct? That is an assumption, but it's a Shraddha and Shastra only. And we can say that, there are supporting, facts to state that there is rebirth and all that. Again, that all depends on one's own Shraddha in those things. But with that premise, if you look at it, the pranalaya, in pranalaya, parichinna abhimaninam pranaha avyakritaha. It is unmanifest. It's not that it is gone. Similarly, pranabhimaninaha api avisheshapattau, in deep sleep, avyakritata samana. The unmanifest nature is the same. And what else? Prasava bijatmakatvam cha. The ability to come back. That is prasava bija. Prasava means is not like creating. I mean, you are not creating the next day. You are back. So there is ability to come back. That is prasava bija. The seed for waking up or seed for rebirth. Both are there. In one case, there is seed for rebirth because your karma is there. So your punya papa, sanchita agamya, prarabdha, all of them are there in this jiva, parichinna abhimani. Now this parichinna abhimani jiva, in its prana only, that imprint has to be there. That has to lead to a birth, correct? Now that is prasava bija. The ability for that jiva to be reborn is in the seed form on that prana only. Therefore, prasava bijatmakam is there in prana at the time of pranalaya. And it is also there in the prana when you are in deep sleep, avisheshapattau. That's why you are able to get up next day and continue. So, prasava bijatmakatvam is there in both pranalaya and avisheshapattau on the prana. Therefore, you have to consider both of them as avyakrita. Tadadhyakshascha ekaha avyakritaavastaha. Adhyaksha means what? The one who has this prana. That is the entity, the core jiva. That is Adhyaksha. So the Adhyakshatvam also, the Adhyaksha also, Ekaha. It's the same. Avyakrita avastaha. So that Swarupa, which has this prana. So its prana is not, it's kind of equated to the Satswarupa. But here he uses the term Adhyakshaha. Tad Adhyakshaha, the one who wields the prana. That is also in Avyakrita avastaha. Parichinna abhimaninam adhyakshanam cha tena ekatvam iti पूर्वोक्तम विशेषणम एकीभूतः प्रज्ञानगणः इति इत्यादि उपपन्नम तस्मिन्ने एकत्वम एकत्वम with what? For the parichinna abhimani adhyaksha, so the jiva's core state has ekatvam in with the purvoktam visheshanam ekibhutah prajnanaganah. So it is one mass of consciousness. So this adhyaksha is consciousness. So prana is not consciousness. Prana is wielded by the awareness consciousness. Therefore purvoktam visheshanam ekibhutah prajnanaganah iti upapannam tasmin ukta hetum hetumatvat. What is the ukta hetu? The previous hetu that Shruti Pramana he quoted, right? Samvrinte prano hi eva etan sarvan samvrinte iti. All those things are tenable, is what he says. Now, question is katam prana shabdatvam avyakritasya. So you are saying the adhyaksha is chaitanya vastu, right? And prana is avyakrita, the unmanifest, avidya, ajnana, whatever you want to call. So prana is avyakrita, and the avyakrita prana is the one that is wielded by this pratyagatma. Okay, so that is a setup. So you have to understand very clearly. Okay, that is Paraatma, and that Paraatma is available as Pratyagatma, because of Avyakrita, because of Ajnana. When Ajnana Nasha takes place, then what happens? The Pratyagatma is recognized as Paratma. Okay, so there is no difference between Pratyagatma and Paratma in the essence of it, but it is available as Pratyagatma as a jiva because of Avyakrita, which is same as prana. Now the question is, how are you saying prana shabda is for Avyakrita only? Because on what basis are you saying this? So he quotes the Shruti, prana bandhanam hi soumya manaha iti shrutehe. Hey Soumya, the loud one, the mana stands for all indriyas, is prana bandhanam. It resolves, prana resolves all instruments. Iti Chandogya Shruti is there. Therefore, prana shabda stands for what? Avyakrita only. So when something resolves everything and it is in seed form, it is Avyakrita. Avyakrita is another term. Prana is another term used in Shruti, used by Shruti to tell the same thing. This is the thing now. This is the problem with it's a problem, and it is also a way to see the Guptatvam. In one of the discussions in Gita Bhashya, Bhagavan, the Bhashyakara actually picks up a discussion and says, this is not something which is so difficult to understand it in some context. Okay, he says some discussion, I don't remember exactly which discussion it was, but he says it is not so difficult to understand that you have to use a Gupta way, you know, what does it say? What should I say? A methodology, some kind of teaching methodology to reveal it. Okay. Only what is very difficult, Durvijnaya Vishayam, what is difficult to understand, you have to use a prakriya. Okay. So the prakriya is needed for, it's a methodology, it's a way to reveal something. Okay. So you have to bring a certain kind of mysticism, a certain kind of language, and then only you will be able to make people recognize certain facts. And it is there for every kind of knowledge, right? Mathematics uses its own kind of terms, its own structure to teach you, right? It has symbol notations like plus, minus, and all that. Yeah. Similarly, science uses its own, set of words, mu, lambda, and all that. Okay. So every field of study has its own frame. Okay, for teaching. And it is no different for Vedanta also. It's called Paribhasha. Paribhasha means a meta language. Okay. Shastra Paribhasha. In fact, Tarka uses those terms, right? If you want to say that a jar is in the top of the table, okay, or Pustakam Bhutale Asti. If you have to say, it's a very simple thing, right? There is a book on the floor. But a Nayayika won't say like that, right? Bhutala Nishta Pustakatva Dharmavan, like that it will go. Or Pustakatva Avachinna Vastutvam Bhutala Nishta Padarte Asti. Like that they will talk. For a it's what is called, it is called a Paribhasha. And it has to be, it's a way, if they have, it's a definite, so Tarkika is trying to define something. In order to define objects, he brings a linguistic framework. That is called Tarka Paribhasha. Similarly, Vedanta, there is a Paribhasha, methodology to teach. That is why there are different words used by Shastra, because prana is used with Avyakrita. Now this is good because it lets the teacher handle the words and make people understand. But the downside or negative of it is multiple sampradayas have come and it lends itself towards misunderstanding and misrepresentation, because prana, does it only mean Avyakrita or does it mean breathing? Can be a question. Now a Dvaiti or Madhva or somebody may take it differently, because they don't have this concept of Avyakrita, unmanifest, manifest, and all that, right? Now different philosophers will come and say different meanings, and it kind of lends itself, because the intent itself is to have a Guptatvam in it. Then only, see, the Guptatvam is essential, right? See, mysticism, confidentiality, secretiveness are all part of this teaching process. What has to be revealed only at right points in time. There is a progressive exploration. If you tell suddenly day one you say Aham Brahmasmi, nobody will understand. So you have to take the person towards it, like our Shaka Chandra Nyaya, no? So the student has to be progressively taken towards this. So Shastra uses a methodology approach and all that. So it is essential, but then unfortunately it also lends itself towards misunderstanding, misrepresentation, and all that. Therefore, this we have to also, in order to be very clear, bring the relevant passages from Shruti, so that we can be clear that we ascertain, yes, it is prana means Avyakrita only. For that, what do you do? You have to, so now this prana word comes in many shrutis and used in this context. That is why he quotes, while we are studying Mandukya, he brings something from Chandogya, he brings something from Brihadaranyaka, he brings something from Taittiriya. Because across the shrutis, the punarukti is there. So upakrama, upasamhara, and the context, and what is repeated, punarukti is what is comes multiple times. All that is there for Artha Nirnaya, Tatparya Nirnaya Lingam. There is Shadlingam that we talk about, right? So, coming back to this, Prana Bandhanam hi Somya Manaha. Hey, all the instruments of knowledge, all the karanas, they resolve in Prana Bandhana. Yeah, they resolve in Prana. That means what? Prana is Vyakrita. But again, there is a Purvapakshi question. He says, Nanu Tatra Sadeva Saumya iti Prakritam Sat Brahma Prana Shabdavachyam. No, sir, you are wrong. That prana in Chandogya means Sadvastu. Why? Because the context is Sadeva Saumya Idamagrasi Tekameva Dvitiyam. So that is the context. So it is talking about Sat. Sadvastu is Brahma. It is not Avyagritam. Avyagrita is Maya or Avidya. So that prana, Prana Bandhanam hi Somya Manaha, should be equated to Sadvastu and not to Avyakritam. Therefore, Prakritam Sadbrahma. The Sadbrahma only is Prakritam. Therefore, the Prana Shabda Vachyam is Sadbrahma. Prana there refers to Sat. That is the Purvapaksha. Bhashyakara says Naisha Doshaha. This is not a defect, sir. Why? Bija Atmakatva Bhivagamat Sataha. The Sadvastu itself is shown, is recognized, is stated, is understood to be Bijatmakam. Sat itself has the Bija. So now it is in the form of all the Namarupa. Idam, that what is you see as Idam, this Jagat, with all its names and forms and complexities and multiple galaxies and all that, which is available to you in Nana Jagat form, Sadeva Asit. It was only Sat, nothing else. Means Sat led to this Jagat. It was, even now it is Sat only. It's not changed. It's Parinami. It's not Parinami. It is Vivarta only. We have seen what is Vivarta Karanam, Parinami Karanam and all that. So without undergoing any change, it is the same Sat which is available as this Jagat. Therefore it is Vachalamanam Vikaranamadayam Mritiketyeva Satyam Sadeva Satyam. So that is how Chandogya shows that all that is here is Sadvastu. But the thing is, this Idam comes from Sat by how? Through the Bija. That is the seed form. In the seed form, this entire manifested Jagat has to be there in Sat. Then only it can come. Without a seed, how can the tree come? So, Bijatmakatvam Sataha Abhyupagamyate. It is recognized. Yadyapi Sadbrahma Pranashabdavachyam Tatra Tatapi Jiva Prasava Bijatmakatvam Aparityajyeva Pranashabdatvam Sataha Satshabdavachyatacha. Even though Yadyapi Sadbrahma Pranashabdavachyam Tatra. Okay, the Sadbrahma only is Prana in Prana Bandhanam hi Somya Manaha. Still, tatapi, Jiva Prasava Bijatmakatvam aparityajya, without omitting the seed form of the Jiva Jagat and all that, of the manifestation. The manifested world is available in seed form, in unmanifest form, without losing its character of it being unmanifested cause of this Jagat. Only this Sadvastu is Prana. Prana Sabdatvam Sataha. Shatsabda Vachyatacha. The Shatsabda itself means what? It is the cause. The causality is still there in Sat. Because it has caused this Jagat. Idamagra Asit Sat means what? This Jagat has come from Sat. Means the causality of the Jagat is in unmanifest form in Sat. Yadi hi nirbija rupam vivakshitam brahma abhavishyate neti neti yato vacho nivartante anyadeva tad viditat athaha aviditat iti avakshyate. If the unmanifest bijatvam is not to be attributed to Sadvastu, then what will Shruti say? It would have said neti neti. There is no Jagat, there is nothing, whatever you see is not there. That is Nirguna Brahma. Or yato vacho nivartante, everything will come back. It won't say Vakalamanam Vichara Namadayam. It will say yato vacho nivartante. Words don't go and stick there. Anyadeva tad viditat, aviditat ataha. Known and it's beyond known and unknown. Iti avakshyat. So whenever Shruti has to reveal the seedless Nirguna Swarupa, it uses terms like Neti Neti, Yato Vacho Nivartante and all that. And Smriti also in Gita, Nasattan Nasaduchyate iti Smritehe, neither Sat nor Asat. That's what Gita also says. But here it says it is Sat, because it is, that is, you are attributing some things. That's why Ishvara, the difference, what is the difference between Ishvara and Brahma? The Brahma Vastu is Nirgunam. Ishvara means what? Srishti. Yogyatvam is there. Jagat Karanatvam is an attribute in some form. Even if it is Maya Upadhi, still in some form there is an attribute. It is not Nirguna Brahma. Sagunatvam is there. So we have to understand. So that's why we just don't. It's not that Advaiti says everything is illusion, all Maya. That's how we understand. No, initially people think like that, like Buddhist, who just say that everything is illusion. You see, therefore it is there. Actually, it is not there. Everything is Sunya. We don't say like that. We don't dismiss Jagat like that. It's like not sweepingly just dismiss everything. Then how will you do puja? How did the Acharya create so many shlokas? How are you able to relate to Ishvara? So even a Vedanti, if that person gets a headache, needs Amritanjan, no? So where is the question of everything being illusion? If you have a headache, you need it, right? If you have cataract, a jnani also needs a cataract operation, correct? Are we going to just see, saying everything is illusion itself is an illusion, okay? So we shouldn't be getting into that kind of, so that is not what Shastri, Acharya is not saying that. See, that is where that shift needs to be clearly understood. Sabijatvam, in a level we accept it. Okay, there is a seed form, there is a srishti. In fact, let's read the 3 lines and then come to this discussion. Okay, nirbijataya eva chet sati leenanam sampannanam shushupta pralayayoho punaruttana anupapattihi syat. See, srishti is accepted as an empirical reality. So here Bhashikara says, nirbijataya eva chet sati. if there is no seed for creation, then what will happen? Leenanam sampannanam, people who would go to deep sleep or who have died, Shushupta Pralaya, or not even died, Pralaya, he's talking about Pralaya, who have gone and resolved into Bhagavan in Pralaya. Okay, again, this is Shastra Pramana, Purana Pramana only, right? Pralaya. But Sushupti, we all know. So when somebody is in deep sleep or has gone to Pralaya, Punaruttana Anubhavati Sya, that person will not come back. So the Jagat Anubhava, Nanatma Anubhava has to be there in seed form, including Ajnana. Then only it can come back. So if you say, no, you don't need that seed form, then what happens? He says another one, Muktanam cha punarutpatti prasanga. Why bija bhava aviseshat? So if there is, without the seed, that person can come back, means even a Mukta Purusha will come back. But then Shruti says that that person doesn't come back. Therefore, see again, this is where Shruti only Pramana. Mukta doesn't come back means what? How do you know? Shruti Pramana, right? So, but we are discussing within the context of Shruti. So because of that, you have to accept what? That there is a bija. Also, one more argument he gives, Jnanadahya bija bhave cha jnananartakya prasanga. If there is no jnanadahya bijam, the bijam is what? Not maya or mithya. It is avidya. Why? It is jnanadahyam. It can be burnt by the fire of knowledge. So the fire of knowledge is needed only if there is something to be burnt. That's why you are coming for knowledge, and the knowledge is able to liberate. If the knowledge has the capacity to liberate, means what? It has burnt something. If there is nothing to be burnt, then there is no need for jnana. So he says, Jnanadahya bija bhavecha jnananartakya prasangaha. You don't need jnana, it will get into. Why? Because there is no jnanadahya bija. So the jnanadahya bija has to be there. The seed is inferred. Okay, the ajnana can be inferred. Anumanena, you can see, because the jnanam creates, liberates. Chidyate hridaya grantihi, vidyate hridaya grantihi, chidyate sarva samshaya. The person ha, the person shouts and goes, right? Upanishad says. That is experience. Jnanis are seen. Generations after generations, the people are able to break away and gain this knowledge. See, whether the person seeing from outside accepts it or not, whoever gains the knowledge knows that that person has gained the knowledge, right? That's why that person is happy. And you can't dismiss that knowledge, because as an outsider, how can you say that? Because he or she is not going to tell you that I have the knowledge, right? But, and from, you can infer a jnanis from the way that person conducts oneself, and the way the person is like removed from all the worldly cravings, and the person is always self-satisfied. So you can say, you can clearly see, in fact, there is no urge to even teach, to change the world, nothing. That is not possible unless that person has gained that knowledge. That means what? Jnanadahya bija was there. That seed was there, and through jnana it got burnt. So the person became free. So you can infer that such a seed has been there or is there. So Bhashyakara says, Jnanadahya bija bhavecha jnananartakya prasangaha. Otherwise, you don't need knowledge. Why do you need knowledge? Why are you seeking knowledge? Because you know there is ignorance. And why is somebody is teaching? Why is a teacher teaching? Because the teacher sees that there is ajnana. See, whoever is teaching knows that I know some things which I am able to teach you because you are not aware of that. So the teacher knows, then only that person can teach. Otherwise, how can he teach? So suppose I am going to teach x square plus y square. x plus y whole square is x square plus y square plus 2xy. Suppose I teach to some kid. I know that there is a knowledge I have, and the kid doesn't have the knowledge of this particular equation or formula, whatever. So that ajnana is recognized by the teacher. Then only the teacher can teach. Whether the student recognizes or not, the teacher has to recognize. No, then only that person can even teach, open the mouth and teach. Right? So Jnanadahya Bija is easily inferable because the seeker of knowledge is there, teacher of knowledge is also there. So the Jnana Arthakyatvam is evident. You can't dismiss it. Therefore, he says Jnana Anarthakya Prasanga. Jnana Anarthakya Prasanga means the dismissing the need for knowledge cannot be right, because need for knowledge is there. Therefore, Jnanadahya Bijam you can't dismiss. So this there was a Sachidananda Saraswati of Ole Narsinghpur who says there is no Ajnana Bija, there is only Adhyasa. Okay, because that person he takes Adhyasa Bhashya. It's one of the famous thing. I think I also spoke in 1 or 2 sessions earlier. I don't know whether in Mandukya or Gita's. Here clearly Bhashyakara says Jnanadahya Bija has to be there. Otherwise Jnana Anarthakyam, it is only Ajnana which can lead to Adhyasa. Only if you have ignorance of a rope, you can see snake on it. Simple. Ignorance of rope is a precondition for seeing snake. You can't say there is no ignorance of rope. For these, there are people who argue like this. For the person who is seeing snake, there is snake. How can there be snake? Anyway, so the Jnanadahya Bija is something that Bhashyakara clearly says has to be there. Tasmate Sabijatva Abhipagamena Eva Sataha Pranavatva Vyapadeshaha Sarvashrutishu Cha Karanatva Vyapadeshaha. So the Karanatvam in every Shruti is spoken. Without Bija, Karanatvam can't be attribute. Otherwise it becomes what? Sat Srishti, not Mithya Srishti. Means Sat has already changed. So that Bija has to be attributed. Sarvashrutishu Karanatvam is told. Still Moksham also is to be there. See, that is where it is. We have to understand this. In fact, Bhashyakara quotes after this. Where is it said in Shastra? He picks up. Ataha eva aksharat paratah paraha sabahya hyachaha yato vacho nivartante neti neti ityadi bijavatva apanayanena vyapadeshaha. See, the apanayana of bijatvam, which is Nirguna Brahma, is said in some other Shruti. So we shouldn't then think it is Satkarya, Asatkarya, or whatever, right? We shouldn't think that Sat has changed itself into Jagat. So there is a Srishti. Then Anirmoksha Prasanga will come. If the entire Srishti is true, and this pains and all this suffering and samsara is true, is totally true, then there is no moksha. Then you can only say that I have to go to Vaikuntha, which is a relatively better, peaceful place. Because all the gunas and everything you have to accept. Then like Dvaitis say aprakrita gunavan Bhagavan. So this all our gunas are prakrita guna. Because it is prakrita guna, it is limited. Whereas Bhagavan has aprakrita guna. His ananda you don't even understand. We are only doing 1% of gunas here. Bhagavan has the remaining 99% gunas. 99% of it is aprakrita guna. So all karpana only, no? You create concepts. Then your moksha is your belief. Then you have to go. There are 4 grades or 5 grades. If you don't believe in Madhva Sampradaya, then you will go to some hell. They say that very similar to Christianity only. That's what I read. Okay, so from some of the publicly available. See, sometimes people also argue, have you run the Moola, this problem of Google research and all that. So whatever is publicly available, obviously I haven't studied Dvaita or Vishtadvaita fully, but I have fairly read some of Vishweshwara Tirtha and others. How do they argue? Because just to understand their Purva Paksha, I have gone through that. But this is what they say. At least their understanding of Advaita, from their lens, I have seen. Even Madhva, what Madhva says. Some parts of the Bhagavad Gita, Bhashya of both Ramanuja and Madhva I have read. Okay. Now that is, the problem is that when the Srishti is true, right, fully true, then what all you can promise is some loka only. Nothing else, right? A relatively better Indriya and better experience of Sukha Dukkha and all that, right? Not Dukkha, only Sukha. Yeah. That is kind of moksha you have to talk about. Okay. So then that moksha is okay. But the true moksha that we talk about, which is free of all pains and dualities and all that, is possible only when you can negate all this. And that also Shruti Vakyas are there. Aksharat Paratah Paraha Sabhakhya Abhyantarohi Ajaha Yato Vacho Nivartante. So it is beyond all the created ones. It is both Bhahya and Antara, but unborn. It is external, internal, everything is that. Means what? It is beyond external, internal. Yato Vacho Nivartante means it is not an objectified thing which you already know of. Neti Neti, whatever you can cognize of, it is not that. Ityadi Bijavatva Apanayana Vyapadesha. So that is a flip. So you go to Brahman, then all this is not there. You look at it from Srishti, then you see Sabijam. It has come from this Bija. What is Bija? Ajnana Bija. Only when you say it is Ajnana Bija, then only you can flip and go to the other side of Moksha. If the Bija is some physical Bija, then it is not Bija. It's part of the Jagat. So Ajnana Bija means it's an ignorance driven. Tam Abhijavastam Taseva Prajna Shabda. So now the question you will ask is, hey, if it is ignorance driven, that means it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist from the standpoint once a person has done Jnana Dahanam, Ajnana Dahanam, right? Jnana Dakhya thing is burnt. Then it is not there. Now, until the Jnanam comes, then it is Abhijam only, this Jagat. So all the Srishti with all its glory is accepted as Ishvara and Ishvara's glory. Therefore, you can relate to Ishvara, you can do puja, you can do everything. So whatever a Dvaiti or Vishishtadvaiti or any such person talks about in the form of Upasana, in the form of Bhakti, in the form of Sharanagati, in the form of Karma, all that is acceptable to us. There is no problem. Absolutely. In fact, we can do that better. Okay. Mostly if you see the shlokas and all the literatures, Bhakti literatures, people who did Bhajana Sampradaya, all these are Advaitis only. The biggest contributors are Advaiti Smartas only, because we recognize Ishvara and relating to Ishvara much better, because we are not dogmatic. We have a big place for all that. Okay. So only these Neo-Vedantins sometimes dismiss all that. It's like a lower plane, all that, right? Lower level people will do ritualistic, all that. There is no lower level, higher level or anything. It is all one holistic understanding of what is Srishti and what is Srishti Karana, what is Ishvara, what is Sat, what is Brahma. We have to understand all of them in its position. And Bhashyakara is very, very clear, right? Nowhere he says, we don't just brush everything under carpet and say, this is all my illusion, Maya. Brahman Satyam, all that, right? This term, they just say Brahman Satyam Jagan Mithya, Jiva Brahma Ivana. So all that, you have to see the Shastra and understand why that is. So here it's very, very clearly talks about Sabijatvam. So the prana is where it goes and rests. So we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।